stuff without a scare.
This defense sucks. You are a professional team. Act like one, for God's sakes.
One of the greats. Buffone was a bear. He was a Chicago Bear. Now at the barroom for year 9, knowing winning is the bottom line. John Buffone continues the legacy. He's got Doug's pedigree.
If you look at this team and this quarterback and this coach, if it's not going to be now, when?
And John does it with 2 pros, Alyssa Barbieri and Danny Shimon. Buffone, 55 years old Bear, covering all the team's affairs. Buffone, 55 years old Bear, covering all the team's affairs.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Buffone 55. I'm your host, John Buffone, and after our own bye week last week, we are back to talk Chicago Bears football. When we last left you, the Bears were 1-2 heading into Vegas in hopes of winning their first road game of the season. And in the fourth quarter, they were trailing by 5 points with 5 minutes left to play, and Caleb Williams and the offense pulled off an 11-play drive to take a 1-point lead. But the Raiders got the ball back with 94 seconds to go. Vegas drove down to the Bears' 35-yard line, and on 3rd and 2 with 43 seconds to go, the Bears defense stopped Ashton Genty for a 1-yard loss, and head coach Pete Carroll then sent out his special team unit, and then this happened.
Awaiting the snap. It's good. Snap is good. It's blocked! Bears blocked the kick. They blocked the field goal on 4th and 3 with 32 seconds to go in the game. The Bears blocked the kick. It might be Josh Blackwell. The Bears are celebrating. They are going to sneak out of Allegiant Stadium with a 25-24 win.
Now, was that a magic moment for the 2025 season, or is it just a blip of excellence for a season that promises the type of mediocrity that we Bears fans have become accustomed to, like way back with the Matt Nagy era and all these other coaches that I could ramble off, but you don't want to hear that. That's just one of the several topics we're going to discuss tonight. And with me is filling in for Alyssa Barbieri tonight, Aldo Gandia, that old battle axe from the bar room. Welcome, Aldo. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Always great to fill in for Alyssa. I hope that she's well. She has a day off, and she should be back with us next week.
Excellent. And also with us is Danny Shimon. He's the lead game analyst here at the bar room and the owner, operator of Shimon Draft Scout on YouTube. Danny, how the heck are you? How you feeling after that win?
I'm doing good. The bye week came at a perfect time. Got a little refreshed, I got some time off. Still watched a lot of football, but feeling good and getting ready to start the second half here, or the next portion of the season here. Not technically the second half yet.
Quick question to start this show for both of you guys. Do you see this win over the Raiders as a sign that things are on the upward trajectory, or was just like all right, they got lucky, they got out of that, now let's see what happens? Aldo, I'm going to start with you, the eternal optimist.
Well, yeah, I am the eternal optimist. So what I'm going to say is going to surprise myself. It's really hard to tell with that game because there were so many mistakes, and it looked like the Bears were headed to defeat. They failed to get the 2-point conversion to take a 3-point lead going into that final minute. Unfortunately, got the block. Now, so that worries me that they missed opportunities to really seal the win airtight. But then again, they did win, and there were some really good things, and we're seeing progress by certain players that we know are important to this team. So was the game a harbinger of things to come? Probably, but I don't know what that harbinger is. So maybe Danny has a better take on it than I do.
A harbinger of we're going to be stressed out this entire year, probably.
Probably, yes.
Danny, how do you take this? Is this game a sign of things to come in the positive or negative? And does the fact that the Raiders got absolutely smoked by the Colts 40-6 have anything to do with your thoughts on this, maybe?
No, for me, it was a positive. We talked about it the week before that game. Is like if they go into the bye, 2-2, that's huge, especially if they start off, 0-2. So, I think that, if Carlson makes that kick, they possibly going to lose. They're 1-3, feeling bad, going into a week off. Instead, it's a game that Aldo's right. They played like crap, especially in that first half. Max Crosby dominated the Bears and that whole offensive line that first half. So, but they came out of the game and they persevered and they came out with a victory. And I think it's a young team that's still gelling with their coach. And I think this was a huge momentum lift and just a good thing where Ben Johnson says, listen, if we can go ahead and execute, we can beat any team anywhere. And we play like crap. We didn't capitalize on some of the turnovers that the defense was making, but yet we still were able to get out there and make a game-winning play. First of all, with Caleb, orchestrating that drive with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, taking him down, leading him to a score, and then obviously the special teams coming up big. It's about time the special teams does something positive. We've been here for 3 weeks just ragging on the special teams coach and some of the coverage and all that stuff, and they come up here big with a big block. And it was funny because I was at a family function and obviously it's like I couldn't really watch the game. I had my phone on, and then obviously I'm watching. I couldn't really see. I'm like, what's going on? And all of a sudden, my feed is slower than the other feed. Someone else yells blocked, and like 3 seconds later, I see the block on my yeah. It was like a feel good story. They needed the victory. Is it gonna propel them to the playoffs? I don't think so, but it's something where they could definitely use the tape of all the mistakes that they've made. Continue to coach up these players. Continue to show them, hey, this is how this is not good enough, but yet you still got a victory, and that's the best way to use that tape, a teaching tape coming off of a W.
Yeah, I'd rather watch the tape from an ugly win than a pretty loss any day. I'll tell you that right now. So I'll take a victory any way we can get it. And of course, the future of this team, both short-term and long-term, rests on the shoulder of quarterback Caleb Williams. And Danny, I'm going to ask you what you've seen from Caleb Williams that you maybe weren't seeing last year, or what he has improved upon significantly in 2025.
Yeah, three things I'm going to touch upon here, John, in terms of Caleb's development. And is it perfect? No, but it's something that I'm seeing here a little bit more consistent basis. First thing is playing more with rhythm under center, right? And what that does is, he pre-snap when he identifies the defense and he knows he has a good idea in terms of where to football. Whether it's a 3-step, 5-step, or 7-step drop, when Caleb's back foot hits, that ball is coming out. That's keeping the offense in rhythm. That's keeping the receivers on their toes, knowing that they got to be there and on time and be able to, make sure they're on their spots because the ball's coming to them. And also it's avoiding sacks, right? So I think that's something that Ben Johnson stressed coming into the season was that we're going to see more of Caleb under center. Now, last year, I believe that the stat was like either 8 or 10 total times Caleb was under center the entire year. So this was a big leap forward for him. And I think he's slowly but surely getting more comfortable and getting more, getting better there. And that's where I see for me is he's picked up his clock. He's more in rhythm. And again, whether a 3, 5, or 7-step drop, ball's coming out. When that back foot is hitting that background, ball's out, no avoiding sacks. And typically he's making plays down the football field. Now, the other area for me that I see in terms of his is getting better is his ability to be able to step up in the pocket, right? So we talked about Caleb a lot of times when things are dysfunctional around him, his first tendency is to go to his playground skills, right? Which is, treat back, run away, do what you can to escape the pressure, and then try and make a play on your own. Well, now, and then a good example of this we'll touch on here later on was now he's got the ability to step up in the pocket, and I've seen more of that on a consistent basis here this season with Caleb. So pressure's coming from the outside, climb up in the pocket, right? I use the term climb the ladder, and if you want to see a prime example of it, we've seen it plenty so far, but a prime example of this most recently was his game against the Raiders and that touchdown to Rome. There was pressure from the outside. He took a two hitch up into the pocket, climbed that ladder, and threw a laser to Rome for that touchdown there. Or, I think that's the third quarter, I believe it was. So, but that's another prime example of him just kind of trusting the interior of that offensive line, stepping up in the pocket, climbing ladder, and that's something that's pivotal for a quarterback. If you're going to make a living making plays from the pocket, but you're going to feel pressure from the outside. That's why that interior of the offensive line, it's got to hold up in pass pro to give Caleb the confidence to be able to take those two hitches or two, 3 steps up into the pocket and then still look downfield and make the play. The other thing, and I think he touched on it as well, was his footwork. His footwork this year is much better in the pocket. Now, early on that first game against Minnesota, we saw some misses. And typically what happens with Caleb and his footwork is when he's feeling disheveled in the pocket, when he's seeing pressure, when he's not sure where he's going to go with the football, you tend to see his footwork still kind of get sloppy. But for the most part, when early on that, in the game when he's got the first 15 or scripted plays, you see Caleb, with his ability to his footwork's clean. He can reload, if he has to move his launch point, from one spot to another, reload real quickly and still get his footwork nice and clean to be able to go and make that nice accurate throw. Obviously, that first game against Minnesota, we saw some inaccurate throws, and I think some of that had to do with him kind of, again, falling back to what he's known, right? Dysfunction around him. He feels pressure, tries to make a play, feet get all out of whack. But last year, we saw a lot of his choppy feet. We saw a lot of feet, in his feet and footwork in the pocket just being all over the place. And I think now we're just seeing a little bit more settled Caleb here in the pocket, a little bit more cleaner footwork. And again, is he perfect? No, but I think I see a more consistent, presence there in the pocket with his footwork and also being able to make plays down the football field. So it's a continuous, growth process where we're going to see him week in and week out get better. I'm really excited and curious to see how what the Bears coaching staff does here during this bye week in terms of what they've done to improve this offense. If they can get any sort of running game going and I'm talking about upfront blocking from the running backs production, this offense is going to continue to get better and better as the season goes on.
Yeah, and I'm trying to preach to myself because I'm terrible at this, is the patience part of this, of understanding that this is his first year with Ben Johnson. This is his first time really probably working with some competent NFL offensive coaches. And so it is going to be a process, and progress is not linear. There's going to be great games. There's going to be games where he takes a step back and he doesn't look great. And you can't say, okay, he had a good game, he's fantastic, or he had a bad game, or he's a bust. This is going to be a long journey in which we have to figure out what the verdict is on this particular player. But I think I speak for a lot of Bears fans to say it's hard to have that patience given our track record with the Chicago Bears and seeing the slew of quarterbacks that we've had in the past. It's just like, either show it to me now or I know I'm just going to throw it away. So I think that there are, like you said, Danny, there are signs that things are improving. The footwork, the stepping up in the pocket, the rhythm. I feel like these are things that are incrementally getting better, and we can see the actual progression of a quarterback rather than saying, well, if he's not great now, we're not going to be able to make him any better because the Bears can't develop a quarterback. So if he's not great now, he's never going to be great. Aldo, what do you feel about that?
Well, I'm with you, John, about the patience thing, because when you draft a quarterback first overall, you expect them to, step in immediately and be able to do some of the things that Caleb has found to be challenging. But when you really, study the situation and know that this is a guy who played under different system in college, who was relied on to be Superman, didn't play in structure, He had to learn the game of the NFL football quarterbacking from scratch. And he had the benefit of some really poor coaching last season to make things even harder on the guy. Then all of a sudden, the blood pressure goes down a little bit, and we start to say, yeah, okay, I can see this, because it is undeniable. Even people who want Tyson Bagent in the game, it is undeniable that when they see Caleb Williams in the game, he has superhuman athletic ability. The way he can avoid the pass rush, the way he can throw the ball 60 yards downfield. Did you see that play yesterday? Patrick Mahomes took 5 steps towards the line of scrimmage, and I thought the ball was going to go past the end zone. It was 20 yards short of the end zone. Caleb has thrown flat-footed longer distances than Patrick have. Those are incredible skills and talent that this guy has that other quarterbacks, even Patrick Mahomes, doesn't have, or at least it seems based on what I saw yesterday. So I'm excited about the progression, and that's going to be an important part of the season. By the way, I asked Greg Gabriel that same thing on Gabriel Talks Football today, and I told him that Danny was going to talk about it and said that Danny's going to focus on footwork and some of the mechanics. And this is what Greg added to the conversation.
First of all, his own persona, how he acts with his teammates, how he handles himself in the pressers. I think he's done, I'm not going to say a remarkable job, a huge improvement over a year ago. On the field, he is more calm, poised, confident, getting the ball out of his hand faster. He's more patient. It's not like he is trying to hurry up and get the ball out of his hand and force a throw. He's trying to make the right read. But, they're getting, part of that is they got a little bit more time to do the pre-snap reading at the line of scrimmage because they're getting out of the huddle faster. So it's a lot of little things.
So, Aldo, coming out of that, the two things are going to be hand in hand. It's going to be Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. One's success is going to be dependent on the other. That's usually how it works in the NFL. So, let me pose this question to you. As we head into Week 6, I'm gonna make you put your teacher hat on, your principal hat on, or whatever you want to call it. Give me a report card on the first-year head coach Ben Johnson so far, and here are the 2 subjects that you need to grade. So go ahead and get your red pen out. Leadership, which involves fostering a winning culture, a positive locker room, and communication. That's the first subject. Okay. And the second subject would be on-field decision-making, which would involve play calling and time management. What do you have as far as grading Ben Johnson? We'll start with the first subject, which would be leadership involving the winning culture, a positive locker room, and communication. How are you grading him so far?
Well, and I can't wait to hear your grades too. So I don't want to be the only guy being thrown rocks at. But okay, so from a leadership standpoint, is really up there with among the best head coaches I've seen in their rookie season in terms of establishing a winning culture. It's the toughness. It's about this has to be done this way. It's yelling at players because they're a yard and a half or a couple of feet lined up incorrectly for the play to work optimally. It's just ingraining a culture into the team to let them know that there's zero tolerance for mistakes, because the only way you can be great and sustain that greatness over years is these attention to details. The positive locker room, I think, has been favorable too, just in hearing the players talk during interviews and listening to reporters who have access to players in the locker room and so forth. This team is night and day different from what Matt Eberflus left the Chicago Bears. This team has confidence. I don't think every player is 100% locked in on that, because this guy is tough. I mean, they're going to have a practice tomorrow. I have heard that tomorrow's Wednesday practice is going to be a really rock and sock'em practice. And I'm sure there are some players out there saying, are you kidding me, Ben? This is week 6 of the NFL season. You're making us go through that? But nonetheless, that's in the vast minority. We're not hearing that. And his communication skills are utterly fantastic. I think great leaders have to be great communicators. And if they aren't great communicators, they have to make up for it in other areas. But this guy, from a communication standpoint, I will follow him up and down. That's why I'm giving him, in terms of leadership, I'm giving him an A. I want to hear from you guys. How would you grade him on the whole leadership thing? Maybe start with Danny.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was right there with you in terms of an A. Although the only reason I kind of went down to a B plus is because we talked about fostering a winning culture. Now he's won 2 games in a row, but that's something that's developing. He's trying to establish that winning culture, and it's a work in progress. So I couldn't give him an A because it's still it's relatively incomplete, but it's trending in a positive direction. So that's why I'm very confident with my B plus. Positive locker room. I mean, we've seen some of the post game stuff, guys. After these wins, we've seen how those guys rally around him. I said it last time. Like, could you imagine Matt Eberflus giving one of those speeches? I mean, I would laugh. But I think the players have bought in, and you could see the way that especially after that victory versus the Raiders. I told you that was a big victory because of, again, all that work he's putting in, all the like Aldo says, being hard on the players, coaching them hard. And now it shows, hey, look what we can do. We can pull off these victories that the Bears have been losing the last 3 or 4 years, right? These close games, these last minute, games where they could, get a victory, but they lose it. So I think he's building that positive locker room and the communication. Although you hit it on the spot, man. I have yet to hear this coach say anything that comes out of his mouth, whether it's a private media one-on-one session with a reporter or in front of the masses there in front of the podium, that I'd say this guy's bullshitting me, or this guy is cringe, or this guy's there's no acronyms, there's no hits, principles, all the other bullshit that we've heard the last 3 or 4 years. And you ask him a question, he'll give you a direct answer. And if he doesn't want to answer it, he's like, I'm not going to answer it right now. I'll give it to you later on, right? Whether it's injury report or whether who's starting a left tackle. But he doesn't just do it like, he's being an ass about it. Like Mike Vrabel's. Have you seen some of Mike Vrabel's interviews with the media? It's just asinine. Anyway, you can be a good communicator, a strong, positive role model for a team, and not be an ass about it to the media. So I think, in terms of communication, he is spot on. You ask him a question, he'll give you an honest answer. So I love that about him. And I think that kind of trickles down into the locker room. I think every player knows where they stand, right? And I think a good case point has been Tyreek Stevenson. I think the first couple of weeks, I was saying this kid is lost, and bounced back big against Dallas. He bounced back even bigger against the Raiders. And if they've tapped into something here with Tyreek Stevenson, this is a kid that's got the talent to be a hell of a cornerback in the NFL. So, maybe it's a focus thing. Maybe it's Al Harris, his DB coach, that's going on him and working him, whatever it is. It's the coaching staff. That's an extension of Ben Johnson. He's brought in one hell of a coaching staff here, and I'm so excited to see how these players develop. Moving forward, not only this draft class, but also the upcoming draft class under this coaching staff.
Yeah, I'm with Danny when it comes to being a B plus, simply for the caveat that I think he's fostering a winning culture that's not winning yet. I mean, they're doing well, but I'm going to give it a B plus. And so just the attention to detail, the no room for error, the saying you're going to do it right. You're not going to do it half right. You're not going to do it 75% right. You're going to do it fully right. And if you don't do it, we're going to do it again, or I'm going to pull you out, or what have you. The locker room, Danny, you're absolutely right. We've seen the post-game videos of Matt Eberflus trying to get guys riled up. And you look, this is the first time in a long time that you've had a Bears coach that is genuinely intense, that is genuinely like when he tries to be upbeat and intense, that's his personality.
And it's not fake.
It's not
Nagy fake.
It's like you didn't see it from Nagy. You didn't see it from John Fox. You didn't see it from Eberflus. You didn't see it from Mark Trestman. You all the way down the line. I mean, Lovie Smith had his own way of doing it, and it was effective. But you haven't seen this type of intensity probably since Ditka. I don't know what Wani did. I was probably too young to realize that. But at the same time, it's just like this is a genuine intensity coming from Ben Johnson and communication. Yeah, I think he's very good at the podium. He's going to tell you I saw the comment from Tony, no word salad. We don't get that puzzled look on our face like after a Matt Nagy or Matt Eberflus interview where it's just like, what the hell did he just say? Like he talked for 15 minutes and he didn't say anything, and so we're not getting that. So he's very direct in his communication, maybe a little intense on some of the sideline interviews on national TV. That's neither here nor there. But overall, B+. And I think you're gonna see this really start. You're going to start reaping some benefits from this.
I got to a point, guys, when either Nagy or Eberflus or Fox would get up there, like I wouldn't even watch their press conference because it was just I know I was going to be lied to. I was a bunch of bull crap and all that stuff. And even if the Bears lose, like that Detroit game, he was honest. He came out and said, this is what happened. This is the tape doesn't show that we played as poorly as the final score indicated. The Vegas game, he said, right before going into the bye, there was we put out some bad tape out there on offense. It's a bad reflection on myself, on the players, and we're gonna have to get this corrected. That's after a victory, right? That's after, his quarterback led a 11 play drive in the final 6 minutes of the game to get a go ahead touchdown. So again, he's not sitting and resting on his laurels. He knows this is not anywhere near to where his standards are, and he's trying to build it to that point, and he's not letting these players, get away with, like you said, getting away with the minor details and all that stuff. And the one thing about being intense with him, guys, is that he's intense, but not like he's not a screamer or yeller. Did you see Jonathan Cannon? His running back. He's not that kind of tough, fake guy. He's a guy that he has their attention, he has their respect. But he's not going to show him up and embarrass him like that in front of national television. But yet he still commands the room. And that was one of the things that I was concerned about. Being an offensive, head coach, offensive coordinator, his first time in front of the room, will he be able to command, the players' attention? And I got to say, the first day we saw that clip when he walked in with his family into House Hall and he talked to all the employees there, he commanded that room. Yep. You knew he was there, he was in charge, and I think it's just continued since then.
And I think he's in command of his emotions. He has that stoic look on his face on the sidelines. He is not doing what we saw in Arizona, freaking out on a player who did make a dumb mistake, but probably that's not the way that he needed to be coached in that moment. And he is completely in control of himself and again in command of the team on the sidelines. Although I don't know if you had a follow up there, but I did want to get to the second subject.
I just 2 B pluses I hear from you guys, and I gave it an A, so we're all pretty close. Now the second one, as you pointed out, is decision making. It's play calling and time management, all of those things that I think that after 4 games, it's a fair time to give a preliminary grade, just like in school where you had the 3 or 4 semesters and so forth. So those first 2 games of his coaching career were a mess. As I reflect on them, they were a mess. That Minnesota game, he had Cairo Santos try to kick the ball out of bounds because, as he said later and got angry with the reporter for bringing up the topic, he says, okay, I got greedy. I wanted 5 more yards because they could have kicked the ball out of bounds and the ball would have been at the 40 as opposed to the 35 or whatever the yard line is. But there were also other mistakes in that Minnesota Vikings game, which I think all contributed to the loss. One was the throwing the review flag, the red flag on the Hutchinson. Was it Hutchinson?
Hawkinson.
Hawkinson. Thank you. Hawkinson play, and that cost them a timeout, which was really needed in that last 2 minutes of play. And there was a third situation in that game, I think, from a play calling standpoint, that was disappointing. And of course, going into the game in Detroit, just nothing went wrong. It didn't seem like he was up for the emotion of that game, and the players were not up for the emotion. It's frankly one of those games. Every great team and every mediocre team and every bad team has had games like that where it's a snowball effect. One touchdown leads to another, and a mistake leads to another, and all of a sudden you're 21 points down, blah, blah, blah. But that was bad. It was bad. Now, I think that he has started to prove himself as a play caller and a better manager of the clock. But right now, I have to say I would give him a B minus, and I struggled with this. I was thinking about giving him a C, but part of the thing is I like the guy so much.
Yeah.
So what do you think, John?
Yeah, on character alone, I'm right there with you with a B minus for all the reasons you said. And we talked about Caleb Williams' progress not being linear earlier. I think you're going to say the same thing with Ben Johnson being a head coach. He is a first-time head coach, learning how to have command of the team, being in charge of everything leading up to game day and on game day. So I think you're going to see a natural progression of that. And there was some hiccups so far against Minnesota and Detroit, obviously in Detroit. But I think that if you're Ben Johnson, you see those as learning experiences, and if you're a good coach, you learn how to not make those same mistakes over again, and you learn what you have to do in the midst of a game. And there's 1,000 things going on. Is it time management and your play calling? And should I take a timeout, or should I challenge this, or do I listen to my coaches on this? And there's just a lot going on. And I think as you get more comfortable with that, you're able to compartmentalize it a lot better. So I think you're going to see that more. I think it's right now I'm with you with a B minus, but I think that there's a lot of room for growth there. So if this is the midterm, I'm excited to see the final exam.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm a little harder, guys. I went to C, and it was hard for me too, although because I do like him a lot, and I think this is the first-time head coach. I think he made some mistakes. Those first two games, you highlighted some of the mistakes there. Although in that Minnesota game, with the kicking situation, with the bad challenge, excuse me. Also, that in terms of the play calling, I understand they haven't been able to block it up and run the ball consistently. But, we want to see that, coached up, and we want to see this to be a little more of a 50-50, offense, time management. I think, there are some now we're seeing a little bit of some plays coming in late. He stood up at the podium and he said, that was on me. The play call came in late, wasted a timeout. That really pisses me off when coaches waste timeout because the play call came in late to the quarterback. So, but again, he's a first-time head coach. He's getting his mechanics ready, and I think he was much better in Game 3 versus Dallas, obviously, and then obviously versus the Raiders as well. So, but he's not there yet, but he's getting better, and I think the credit to him again, standing up and taking blame for being greedy and versus Minnesota and not telling Santos to kick the ball out of bounds. For saying, hey, I got emotional. People around me got me a little hyped up, and my emotions took the best of me, and I threw that challenge flag, even though the guys upstairs were telling me do not challenge that play. So he's admitting that hey, I'm human. I make mistakes, but I'm going to learn from these, and I think so far he's been learning from them. So I was a little tougher on him than you guys see, but I'm not concerned in terms of, this guy's, doesn't know what he's doing. Like I'm very, very confident. And I think he's just like the rest of the team and the rest of the offense. I think he's going to continue to get better as he gets more games under his belt as a head coach.
And John, if you can allow me to amplify a little bit about what Danny said earlier regarding the coordinators and assistant coaches, I really admire the fact that he went outside his comfort zone to bring in a diverse group of coaches that he think would complement his positives and his negatives or deficiencies, I think is a better way of doing it. To hire an ex-head coach as your defensive coordinator was because he wanted somebody who has a proven track record of putting together good defenses, but also somebody who could help with the head coaching aspect of it as he's making that major transition from offensive coordinator to head coach. It's bringing in a Declan Doyle, a young mind with young, fresh ideas about how to build an offense. It's just a wonderful way. When I worked in corporate America, I did a lot of work with the Harvard Business Review, and this is straight out of those textbooks where that's how you build a winning team. And I think this is already paid dividends for Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears, but the best is yet to come.
Just a reminder, guys, remember Matt Eberflus bypassed Cliff Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator because he was scared that Kingsbury was going to come in here and take his job from underneath him. So that was his insecurities end up costing him his job anyway.
Yep, indeed.
Yeah, that was going to be that. The end result was going to happen regardless of who the coordinator was. I feel certain. But,
Probably.
let's switch gears and talk about the defense a little bit. I want to turn our attention over to Dennis Allen and the defensive unit. The numbers tell us that there's a lot of room for improvement. The Bears defense is ranked 27th in yards allowed, 31st in rushing yards allowed, and 17th in passing yards allowed. Danny, those stats aren't too encouraging, but what have you found encouraging about Dennis Allen's defense? I believe they are tied for third in takeaways. That's pretty good.
Well, that's it, John. It's smoke and mirrors. I mean, these last two games, they've forced 7 turnovers. I believe they have 9 turnovers as a whole within with the first 4 games. So it's like you said, numbers are staggeringly bad, right? They're averaging 380 yards per game in terms of what they're giving up. They're like I said, 27th and overall in the NFL. They're giving up 215 passing yards a game. They're giving up only second from the bottom, almost 165 yards rushing yards per game. The only team worse than them are the Miami Dolphins. So, this is something that Allen, these last 2 games where they've come out with victories, it's basically bend as much as you can, but try not to break and get a turnover here and there, because that helps us, continue to keep the other team off the scoreboard. So, this is going to be a challenge coming up here versus this Washington team, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like Dennis Allen doesn't have the guys he needs. He doesn't have his guys yet, right? He's trying to make do with what was already on this roster, and he's kind of fiddling here and mixing and matching. And one thing I did like is he's giving Daniel Hardy a little bit more play time on defense. They mentioned today that they're going to go ahead and open up the practice window for Austin Booker, who's eligible to come off of injury reserve. Maybe he'll provide a little bit more pass rush. But last week for me, Andrew Billings really kind of made his presence felt as a run defender. We're seeing a little more of the rookie Turner here. Hopefully he'll get a little more into the flow. But yeah, that rush defense is very, very concerning. They're not getting to a quarterback at a consistency rate there. But what saved them the last 2 games has been the turnovers. If they can continue this trend, I guess it's hard to rely on turnovers, but if you can make that happen, then I think they have a chance here, right? So Kyler Gordon's coming back. I think this game. Maybe TJ Edwards comes back as well. That's going to only help boost that the overall team defense. But how they won these last 2 games, I call smoke and mirrors right now. I don't know how he's doing it, but those numbers are gaudy, horrible.
Yes, they are.
Aldo, do you have hope that this defense will get significantly or even incrementally better as the season go on? Guys are going to get healthy. They're going to get more comfortable in the system. They're going to try to do what Dennis Allen feels comfortable doing. Do you have any hope, or what's your hope level that this defense will improve? I don't know if statistically they couldn't get much worse, but they are taking the ball away. So what are your hopes like for this defense?
My hopes are actually pretty high, and I'll tell you why. Because as Danny said, we've got some injured guys who are coming back, but it's also just faith in Dennis Allen that he's going to figure out some remedies to the situations that are going on. There's also the belief and a lot of hope involved, but my belief is that the interior of the defensive line has not played nearly as well as they are capable of playing, and they will. And in fact, I wouldn't at all doubt it that starting with this game against Washington, because they've had some trouble with the interior of their offensive line, that we could see the most dominating performance of the season by the interior of the Bears defensive line. And a lot of that has to do with Shamar Turner coming back. I think he is Raiders game, and now it's time to give him some more snaps and help him and Jervon Dexter make a difference in the middle of that offensive line. I think Billings has been playing well, and there hasn't been a lot of attention or accolades thrown at him, but Billings has come up with some big splash plays. He still does a lot of the dirty work, which goes unheralded and sometimes unnoticed. So I think the defense in today's NFL always starts with the interior of the offensive line protection and the defensive line, the middle of the defensive line providing a push, so that way your outside pass rushers can provide some pressure. And I think that the best is yet to come, to use that phrase again, for this Bears defensive line in the interior. What do you think, Danny?
Well, if that happens, then I mean they found a magic secret there, because this Washington Commanders unit, they're averaging 156 yards a rushing per game. So they're tops in the NFL. So they are a powerful rush, football unit. So, this defensive line is going to be challenged. And hopefully, during the bye week, they did some self-scouting and they come up with some things in terms of how they can help better stop the run defense or help support the run defense, either from the second level, linebackers or third level, safeties and whatnot. But yeah, this Washington team, they're going to challenge them, and they're going to, they could potentially, run all over the Bears. So, if they did find something over the bye week, this is a great time to go and pull it out, because they're going to need it come Sunday. Come Monday.
There you go.
Yeah, and you talked about splash plays. They're going to need a few against Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. Let's turn our attention to that upcoming game on Monday night versus the Commanders. Everyone knows how much I love nationally televised games and primetime games, but because of the track record of them losing on those games and the fact that I live on the East Coast and those games don't get done till like 11:30 or midnight. That's always fun. And then I have no energy going into work the next day, and I'm not even happy because the Bears lost. But I digress. We have a video here. This is what Ben Johnson said about the Commanders today.
Yes, he did. This is
a good team. I think when you watch their tape, what stands out is, their play style more than anything. And it's all three phases. You turn on special teams tape, they're flying around. You turn on defense, they're physical and they're flying around. And then offensively, it's the same story. And so a lot of credit to Coach Quinn. It's in his image, and we'll have our work cut out for us. So.
Now, Aldo, a recurring theme throughout this conversation was the injuries and who's going to be available and who's healthy, who's not healthy. The first injury reports aren't really released until after Wednesday's practice. So without that, are you able to catch us up on some of the Bears' injury situation, what level of hope we have for some of those injured players to return against this in this huge game against the Commanders?
Yeah, I did a little research and I came up with some information on the injuries. First of all, Kyler Gordon told the media today that he is fully healthy and that he will play Monday night against Washington. So we're going to take him at his word. He is back, and that is good. He's missed the first 4 games of the season. It looked like he was ready to play against the Minnesota Vikings for that game, but it appeared that he re-aggravated the hamstring injury that he suffered. The other player that we should expect back that it looks like he's ready to go is TJ Edwards, who's missed 3 of the 4 games this season. And as people in the chat have already been saying, having these 2 guys back is going to be really huge for the run defense. And of course, Kyler's going to help with the pass defense, and TJ Edwards is no slouch either when it comes to pass defense. There were 5 players today, John, that did not practice when the media was there to take a look at practice. Colston Loveland still is dealing with that hip, but he did tell the media that it feels good, and it's the same hip injury that he had when he was at Michigan, and that when the injury first happened when he was here with the Bears, that he said what feels like the same exact thing, and that he was certain that it wouldn't keep him out for a long time. Cairo Santos did not practice today, and he has a quad injury, so we might be seeing Jake Moody, his backup, make his first appearance this season. Hopefully Santos gets better. Grady Jarrett has that knee injury. He did not again practice along with these other guys that I'm mentioning now. It's a knee injury, no information on him. Darnell Wright has the elbow injury. We don't know exactly if he's going to be ready to go. It's kind of unlikely. We might be seeing Ozzie Trapillo play the right tackle, but we will know more tomorrow, of course, when the injury report is released. And for some reason, Jaquan Brisker did not practice today, and we have no information as to why he did not practice.
Yeah, as you said, things are going to be a lot more clear tomorrow when some of those reports come out, and as the week progresses, hopefully we get some of those key players back. Hopefully, some of these things are just just precautionary, and they're gonna have a good amount of guys coming back from injury. I think that's going to help a lot. Danny,
how does Santos hurt his quad during the bye week? Did he go to Brazil?
Well, no, it was actually during the Raiders game. It was actually during the Raiders game, which is why Torrey Taylor kicked off those last 2 times. Yeah.
Well, could be Jake Moody time. We'll see how that goes. But
I hope
Danny,
not.
Danny, this matchup is always going to be amplified because it's Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. Forget the other 21 guys that are going to be on the field at any certain time, but it's going to be Jaden Daniels and it's going to be Caleb Williams. And so I believe at the beginning of the year, this is the game that you circled that they're going to win. They were going to come out of this Monday night game with a win. What do you know about the Commanders that you can share? What have you seen so far, and why do you still feel confident that the Bears can come out of this with a victory?
Well, you can throw on this team. I mean, for Marshawn Lattimore is not the corner. One corner is not what he was before. I mean, you can definitely throw on him. Trey Amos is a rookie. It's a good looking young prospect, but he's still a rookie. I can think you throw on the secondary. I mean, they've been getting up 235 passing yards per game, everything, right? Running on them is going to be difficult, right? We already know the Bears have trouble running the ball as is, but with the two guys in there, with Deron Payne and Newton, the former Illini in there, I think that those guys are going to be able to kind of block up, and also Eddie Goldman, the ex-Bear, is part of the rotation there as well. So I think running the ball will be difficult. So I think the Bears are going to have to be able to go ahead and pass the ball on the secondary. In terms of how the Bears are going to stop Jaden Daniels' company, you can stop the run and make them one-dimensional. Make Jaden Daniels hurt you from the pocket. Make sure you play good sound defense. You set the edge, kind of keep him in that pocket. Don't let him hurt. Get out and use his legs. I think you can go ahead and make some plays here and limit these guys in terms of what they do. Terry McLaurin, their leading receiver, really has gone off to a bad start. He's been injured, missed the last couple of games. He is an outside chance he might play. Deebo Samuel, the ex 49er receiver, has had a pretty good start with the Commanders. 300 yards receiving. I believe he leads them in touchdowns as well, 3 touchdowns. So he's going to be a threat. And I talked about earlier the rushing attack. This team is geared around that rushing attack, and the rookie, and I don't want to butcher his name. I wrote it down. It's Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, aka Bill. He's a guy that's really come on here big. Last week he had a big game, 283 rushing yards total for the season. With 4 touchdowns. So if you can maintain Daniels using his legs and that rushing attack somehow, some way, we know the Bears have struggled versus the run. If you can do that and just make him one-dimensional with McLaurin still not playing, or maybe not even 100% yet, I think you could limit them and kind of keep the guys keep the Bears in the game and then allow Caleb and company to put up some points on the scoreboard.
Eddie Goldman, a name that I had, not thought about in years. I didn't honestly, and this is just me being, transparent. I didn't realize he was still in the league. I know that he went to Atlanta. I didn't realize that he caught on with Washington.
Von Miller is there as well. He's second on the team with 3 sacks. So Dorrance Armstrong is the former Cowboy. He leads them with 5. Von Miller is a situational pass rusher. He's got 3 sacks. So and again, we know Dan Quinn, right? He likes that speed. Just kind of attack from all angles, kind of a defense. So pass protection is going to be key, and getting rid of the ball. We talked about Caleb earlier in terms of some of the things he's gone better at this year. Getting that ball out quickly and out into the hands of your playmakers, preferably in space. I think it's going to be key for the Bears offense.
And, guys, we were talking about Ben Johnson's progression and how he's going to get better as a head coach. Although I believe we actually have a soundbite from Ben Johnson on what he has learned from watching tape from the first 4 games. That might be interesting to hear. Do we have that?
Yeah, we do. And I'll just also preface this. This is another example, I think, of why we all love the guy. Listen to the tone and the honesty when he was asked of what he learned from watching tape of those first 4 games.
Offensively, we're still a work in progress. Some things we're doing well, some things we're not. I think the inconsistent nature with which we're playing, we're shooting ourselves in the foot quite a bit. And when I look at where we were through the first 4 weeks, a lot of penalties. I want to say we were top 5 on offense there through 4 weeks. And so we're playing behind the sticks, and you can certainly feel that as I was calling it. I give the guys a lot of credit. I did feel like we were pretty good at getting back on track as much as we could, but it's just not sustainable when you're playing football that way. And so that's going to be an emphasis for us here going forward. We've got to get the pre-snap penalties under control, and they know that. The running game, I've kind of alluded to it over the course of training camp. It's going to take a little bit of time for our guys to all mesh together, and I think that's what the tape looks like right now. We're just not firing on all cylinders yet, and sometimes it could be the ball carrier not hitting the right spot. Other times it's just our combinations aren't clean yet. And it's going to take everybody. It's quarterback, it's receivers, it's O-line, it's tight ends to go along with those runners. So, it's a very complex question, but the guys are playing hard. They're playing for each other. I think we're doing a good job of getting that kind of squared away, and I think good things will happen the more time we spend together.
Yeah, how do you not like the transparency of that? Because we know that in years past we would have gotten a just runaround of nonsense, and you would just be more angry listening to it, and you might be a bit dumber for having listened to it. And so there's just something about that. Even if it's saying something that the Bears are doing wrong right now, even if it's something that they're not executing properly, it is refreshing to hear that take on the team, because I think he's being transparent with himself. I think he's being transparent with the players. And I think he's being transparent with the external audience, which is the media and Bears fans. So that's just something that's I think refreshing to hear. I did want to bring up one. I don't know if it's a question or a comment that we had earlier. We were talking about Ben Johnson. We were giving him grades, and I thought this would be an interesting conversation, which there is absolutely no right answers to. It said grade each NFC North head coach 1 through 4, and so we're talking Dan Campbell, we're talking Kevin O'Connell, we're talking LaFleur, and we're talking Ben Johnson. This division is loaded with some quality coaches, and so I mean, without being able to really think about it, because we're just doing this off the cuff,
right?
I'm not ranking these right now. I'm just going through my mind process here. Is that Kevin O'Connell has made some guys play quarterback really well. Joshua Dobbs, he's resurrected Sam Darnold. Right now he's playing with, Carson Wentz, potentially their backup. That rookie from Michigan might be stepping in at some point. And he's in charge of trying to get J.J. McCarthy off the ground, although that wasn't going great to start. But just being able to be competitive with those teams says a lot. LaFleur, his track record speaks for itself. The Green Bay success going into the playoffs, it hasn't equated to any, Super Bowls or anything of that nature. And then Dan Campbell, who I have a soft spot for, because I feel like that's what I would be like as a coach. I'd be biting kneecaps and doing up downs with guys, and I'd be having 5,000 milligrams of caffeine the entire time. I'm not saying that's the right way of going about it. I'm just saying that he's kind of my spirit animal. That's how I would be coaching things. I wouldn't be able to X and O my way out of a paper bag, but that's why I would hire a Ben Johnson to be my coordinator and Aaron Glenn to be my defensive coordinator, and keep trying to replenish myself with a good staff, where it's like whereas there's just different styles, where you have the brains and the X and O's and the schematics that you have of, Ben Johnson, LaFleur, and O'Connell. And then you have the CEO type mentality of Campbell, where he is a culture setter that says, this is what I'm going to hold our team to. And I'm going to, lead by example. And I'm going to surround myself with people that can fill in the gaps outward. So I didn't answer the question at all. I just went, all I did was do a run through. But if I'm ranking them right now,
you sound like a former Bears head coach. Just talking,
I know.
talking.
Yeah, all that talking, and we accomplished nothing. You know what? I should have put in for the Bears job.
All you need is an acronym for a word like HITS.
Yeah, we'll come up with something just as clever. I think that I love just what O'Connell is able to do. I think that he's a masterful mind in being able to keep his teams competitive, not just with with being able to do more with less. So I'll go O'Connell, I guess, and then I'm gonna go. It's hard for me not to Campbell, LaFleur, and Ben Johnson's an incomplete right now, because you got you got 4 games of a track record to rank him ahead of those guys. So I mean, he's ascending. And I can see him going in front of some of those guys very soon, but there's just not enough sample size right now.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Daddy.
Are we supposed to give him a grade or rank them? I forgot.
Rank 1 through 4.
John spoke so much he filibustered, and I
yeah, that's right. That's how you do it.
If we you said rank, if we rank them, obviously I think Campbell's at top of the division, right? I mean, or who
would you want?
What's that?
So who would you want? So instead of saying like win losses, forget about that. Who would you want coaching your team?
Yeah, I think Dan Campbell's really kind of bounced back, and the Lions have bounced back. After that first week 1 loss to the Packers, where they just looked inept on offense and got really kind of run over. He's really bounced back, and you see the toughness. The players exude the toughness and the confidence that Dan Campbell puts out there. And you hit the nail on the spot there, John, in terms of, he's not the X's and O's guy. He's not the defensive whiz. He's just the CEO. He's the guy that lets his, his coaches do the job, but the buck stops with him. Right. So, if he wants to go on fourth down, it's not because of offensive coordinator wants to go on fourth down, it's because he wants to go on fourth down. And then the way that Detroit, it exudes his confidence, it exudes his bravado, it exudes the head coach. And I think that to me, he's the top of the division. Kevin O'Connell, more of an opposite. While he's good in terms of as an overall head coach, his specialty is offense, and his wizardry with what he does with these quarterbacks, these reclamation projects, and just kind of churns them up and makes them into football players. Whatever his magic is, he is the quarterback whisperer, right? So, and he's smart in terms of, because he's brought in one hell of a defensive coordinator and let him run that show, right? And I think so that's how makes them successful. He does the offense and lets Flores do the defense. So I think he'd be next in line. For me, Matt LaFleur, guys, has been a little disappointment so far. It's only been 4 games, but a team that came in with such high expectations, and we said it earlier when that trade for Micah Parsons was made, that this team's success is not going to be based on what Micah Parsons does. It's going to be based on what Jordan Love does, and Jordan Love is directly under Matt LaFleur, and I think he has not so far gotten Jordan Love to play at a more consistent basis. And if he is able to get Jordan Love to be very good to Pro Bowl type of quarterback, then you can see the Packers kind of take off. So to me, I think, and then losing at Cleveland, some decisions there towards the end of that game was really bad, a bad look for Matt LaFleur. So I think he's definitely third, and only because Ben Johnson's only been in 4 games, right? And I think, but he's trending in a nice upward position. So once you get Ben Johnson, some more players on offense, a better offense, some more offensive linemen, get Dennis Allen, some more defensive players, I think you'll see Ben Johnson and the Bears kind of take off there as well. So for me, Matt LaFleur is kind of like stuck in neutral here. He's not, he came with high expectations, and we'll see how the season ends up. But for me, it's Campbell, it's O'Connell, LaFleur, because he's got more of a track record, and then Ben Johnson, trailing, but right nipping on the heels of Matt LaFleur.
How about you, Aldo?
Well, I'll try to keep this short because I think you guys covered so much, and I agree with just about everything that you guys said. I will say this. I hated Dan Campbell when he first came in, and that's not to say that I wouldn't want to be coached by John Buffone. I would love to be coached by John Buffone, and all the veins popping, and I'd run through a wall for John Buffone. But I'm not sure I'd run through a wall for Dan Campbell until recently, where I have to pay the guy his props. Everyone, especially me, I mean, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people, and I was leading the chorus on this, expected the Lions to have a huge downfall and maybe get off to like a 3-5 start because they were going to get used to their 2 different coordinators, plus a lot of position coaches that they lost. So that was huge.
The offensive line.
And the offensive line issues, on and on. I mean, the list of challenges that Dan Campbell has faced and has beaten is like Conan the Barbarian. That's how I picture him. This guy keeps fighting with his sword and slaying dragons and stuff. It's really impressive what he's done, and so I've got to give him his props, as much as I hate to do that. But I'm with, I think it's Danny that said, Kevin O'Connell, I think, is the best coach in the division because of what. Yeah, that was you, John. Because of what he has accomplished with what he has. And the fact that he's a quarterback whisperer, the fact that he leads the way I would love to have led if I was a football coach. I just love Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a great coach. When he was available for a head coaching job, I wanted the Bears to at least talk to him and the guy that ended up being the GM for the Vikings, but that didn't happen. And I'm with Danny regarding Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur's coaching reputation rests on the shoulders of Jordan Love. He has to turn Jordan Love into a more competent quarterback, fewer mistakes, eliminate the mistakes because it seems to always shoot them in the butt. that team to me has, people were saying that they were Super Bowl worthy because they beat the Lions in the first game and they got off to a 3-0 start. I think it was 3-0. No, 2-0, and then the loss and a tie. But I think people are now looking at the team the way they should, which is this team is borderline playoffs. But nonetheless, I've got to give props to Matt LaFleur for what he's done. And so, therefore, if I'm ranking guys 1 through 4, Ben Johnson is 4th, but not that he would be my 4th candidate on the list of guys to hire. He would be number 2 behind Kevin O'Connell.
All right, guys. I want to take one more question before we head out here. It's kind of a compounded question, so I'm going to start with you, Danny. It was about whether or not the Bears should be buyers or sellers at the deadline. Now, I know it's pretty early. The deadline's not for another month or so. And if they are, who would they trade or who would they trade for? And then I also want to compound it because it's easy to say running back in this spot. So if you and Danny, in your analyst of the draft class, would you trade for a running back or would you wait until the draft if there's a good bunch that they can pick?
No more skill position players, guys. No more skill position players. We need offensive and defensive linemen, right? To me, Jonah Jackson has been a big disappointment. He might be done. He might be done. We don't know. We'll see. Obviously, Ben Johnson still believes in him. He's going to try him out there. But if you can find yourself an offensive lineman, whether it's preferably an interior or maybe even a left tackle, which you probably won't, but that's number one. And everybody hits me up about the Jets and Breece Hall and the running. If the Jets are going to sell off players, call them about Quinnen Williams, the defensive tackle. You put him in the middle of this defensive line. That's what you need here as a guy like Quinnen Williams. So if you're going big game hunting, I'm not going after a skill position player. I'm going after an offense or a butt kicking defensive tackle because that's what this team needs immediately, and that's going to help them, propel them to victories. We saw a little bit of Kyle guy versus the Raiders, and I told you guys this kid downhill. Contact balance, contact power, will bounce off of arm tackles, has solid vision. I'm not saying he's going to be a bell cow for you, but he's going to guy that can give that offense, that run game, a spark. He just needs to get blocked up front. It just needs to get better blocked up front. If he can do that, I think he'll be a nice compliment to DeAndre Swift. And Swift in the open field with the ball in his hands, that's where he can make his money, right? That's where he can make guys miss and run off, make big plays there. So, use that combination. I know Roshan Johnson's still on the roster. I'm not sure what he's doing on the roster, but we'll see if they find a way to utilize him as well. But no more skill position players. You got to continue to feed the offense and defensive lines. So that's who I would target if there are players that come available.
Although now going into this, a lot would have to happen to decide whether or not you're going to be a buyer or a seller at the deadline. If the Bears rattle off, 3 straight wins, then you're looking to maybe do something. But if you lose 3 straight, you're not looking to add anything either. But let's just say they're in it. They're in the hunt, so to speak. What are you doing at the trade line? Are you staying neutral? Are you going after
that's
something?
A great point, because if you look at the schedule, that trade deadline is week 9 of the NFL. So if the Bears beat the Commanders, Saints, and Ravens, which is a distinct possibility given the situation with Baltimore now, not only Lamar Jackson's injury issue, but just the entire team seems to be faltering deadly. It's not probable, but possible that this team could win 3 straight games, and that would be a total of 5 straight games going into the trade deadline. So I am with Greg Gabriel, who earlier today said I wouldn't be picking up the phone to make calls, but I would be standing near the phone hoping to get some calls. So if the Jets called and said, listen, our season is done, Breece Hall is a damn good football player, we want to accommodate him, I would say, okay, what are you interested in return? And then if they want a day 2 pick, absolutely not. If they want a 4th round pick, I would entertain that. And I see Danny shaking his head no, but here's why I would consider it, Danny, because even Ben Johnson said that DeAndre Swift is missing some of the holes. And that's been a problem with him throughout his career. He sometimes has games where he doesn't, but he does have games where he does. And that is a major deficiency in his game, particularly when you are still waiting for your offensive line to gel together, because I think that's the biggest problem with the interior of the offensive line, that they haven't gelled together yet. And then we still have question marks at the tackle positions. Not that they're terrible question marks, but I agree with Ben Johnson. We got good tackles on the team, but they have to start to play better. But my thing is if you can find a running back, and maybe you know, I know you know more about Breece Hall than I do. If you think he's a guy that has good sound judgment at hitting the hole, then why not entertain a trade offer for him?
Yeah, the thing with Breece Hall was he's a kid coming out of Iowa State. I was really high on, but just watching some of the Jets games, I do watch some of the Jets games because I was a fan of Aaron Glenn, a fan of Justin Fields, and I do want to keep up with that team. And he's, to me, coming off that ACL, he's not the same in terms of his burst and his speed. Now he's had productive games, but also he has had fumbling issues as well. So, and again, he's a guy that, you know, is probably you're not gonna get him for a day 3 pick. I don't think the Jets would do that. So they're probably gonna look for a second or third round pick. And to me, that's too rich, right? So, and again, my thing is, while I agree with you, DeAndre Swift is not a bell cow elite running back. He is a change of pace back, in my opinion. You know who would be a nice running back in this offense? David Montgomery. Wasn't he here a couple of years ago, Mr. David Montgomery? You know, that's the kind of guy that they need right now, David Montgomery. But it is what it is. I digress. But, you know, they need someone that can get in between the tackles, get downhill. Like I said, Aldo, hit the right hole, stay on the path in terms of the way the run play is designed. But also, to me, it's I see the offensive lineman up front getting beaten off the snap, right? Jonah Jackson, you know, being able to get out and pull and be able to get to his block or reach his blocks and stuff like that. So if they could shore up the interior of the offensive line. And the one thing about Theo Benedict, now he might not be a left tackle, but what he does do, he's a pretty good run blocker. And you can see he gets his, kind of rolls his hips, gets into the defender and drives his feet. And he can generate some movement there at the line of scrimmage. So maybe you can run behind a Theo Benedict and kind of create that momentum there. And now you have a respectable run game where now the play action is even more, in terms of a tool for Ben Johnson to create some more big shots down the football field. So, but, Breece Hall, to me, it's not going to solve it if up front they're not blocking it. And that's, I think, while, DeAndre Swift is not a great, bell cow back, I think if they block it up well in front, I think he could be serviceable along with, Coleman Ungai and a combination of wherever else they bring in there. So that's why, for me, it's offensive, defensive line first.
Quick follow-up for you, Danny, because if they're not going to trade for a running back and they're maybe not going to go, and I don't know what the free agent pool looks like, but what does the running back pool look like in the upcoming draft? Will there be opportunities for them to get that downhill runner that might be able to complement DeAndre Swift or become the next number one in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the draft, that's still a ways away. But I mean, obviously, the kid Singleton from Penn State is top of a lot of draft boards. His Allen, his teammate, is also another guy. Nice compliment there. He's more of a in between tackles, downhill power runner. And Singleton has more of that home run hitting speed. But there's a ton of players that we'll get into in terms of the draft. But in terms of right now, in terms of the season, obviously those guys are going to be in the future, right? But right now in the season is you have what you have right now, and that's, for me, it's Coleman Ungai. Another guy that Aldo and I really liked when we watched him in training camp. And again, he's a former 7th round pick of the Raiders. He may not be a great running back, but Britton Brown really impressed us. Came on late August, mid to late August, and made the practice squad. So he impressed others there as well. Maybe the coaches, and the front office. So I'd like to see him eventually get in the mix here and see what he can produce as well. But for me, until you start blocking it better up front, you could have Saquon Barkley back there. It's not going to make a difference because the penetration that the offensive line is allowing the defenders to get on these run blocks, it's pretty bad. So I think if you shore that up, you have a combination where you can be a serviceable rushing attack, and then obviously help complement that passing attack.
All right, guys. Before we get out of here, Danny, you sticking to your prediction that the Bears come out with a victory?
Are you going to be there?
No, because it's a Monday night game, and that means I wouldn't get back until like 4 in the morning. Usually,
You were there a couple years ago, right? For that DJ Moore game, you were there.
Yeah, I was
night.
down there. I was down there for a Thursday night, and I was able to take Friday off. But then,
Okay,
and then last year it was a 4:00 game on Sunday, and it wasn't too bad. But DC traffic in the middle of the week, driving down there in the evening. Listen, I live close enough that it's not that far of a drive, but with DC traffic, it adds about an hour and a half onto it. So I would not probably get back until the sun was coming up. So unfortunately, I will not be there.
All right. So my initial pick was predicated on you being there, right? So now with you not being there, it changes the equation a little bit for me. But we talked about it. What I'm curious about, guys, I want to see what kind of self-scouting this coaching staff has done offensively and defensively. Defensively, I really want to see them show up that rushing attack. Like I said, the Commanders really are the best teams in terms of average yards per game, rushing yards per game. So if they can stifle that rushing attack or contain it, right, and then make the Commanders a one-dimensional and make Jaden Daniels beat you with basically Zach Ertz and Deebo Samuel if McLaurin is out. That's what I think and then maybe create a couple of turnovers here and there. I think they could keep the game close. Offensively, you attack those corners, in my opinion. You attack that secondary. If you can come out of the self-scouting period in the bye, and now you have found something in terms of a reliable running attack, that'd be even better. But the Bears are going to be able to win this game. You're asking me if they're going to win, yes or no. I'm going to say the Bears are going to go in there and beat the Commanders because I have faith in Ben Johnson and his staff and the week of preparing for the Commanders. I say Bears win 24-20.
Excellent. Aldo, do you hold your prediction for the end of the week, or are you able to talk about that a little bit right now?
Yeah, I truly hate to make predictions because I don't know. I want them to win. I really want them to win, but I got a bad feeling about this game. I got a bad feeling about it. So I think that the Commanders are going to somehow win one of those games that's just going to frustrate the hell out of us. And this is a gut feel. It's going to be similar to what happened last year. Some play, some mistake by some player, whatever it is, something is going to happen. I need a little bit more confidence from what I've seen from our past 4 games, and in particular the last 2 games. They're both victories, but I still don't feel like we're there yet to win a game on the road against a team that's looking as good as the Commanders are. Because let's face it, they went to where did the Chargers play? L.A., Las Vegas, one of those places. They went over there and they were down 10-0 and scored 20+ points unanswered. And they're doing that on the road with injuries to that team. Terry McLaurin was injured. Now he's scheduled to probably be back for the Chicago Bears. Their other wide receiver was injured. Sam Cosmi, the right guard, has been out all season. So they've had their own set of injuries, and I feel that at this point, the Commanders team is ahead of the Chicago Bears team in terms of rebuilding, and that's why it's going to be too hard for us to win on the road. But I hope I'm wrong.
I think this is going to be a really ugly, boring game for the majority of it. I remember that game last year where it was kind of not aesthetically pleasing for the most part. I think it's going to be another one of those kind of games, but I think something's going to break it wide open in the second half, whether it's late third quarter, early fourth quarter. I think Ben Johnson has some kind of trick play up his sleeve he wants to use for this game. I think there's going to be some kind of gadget play that breaks this open and kind of gets through the monotony there. So I think I originally picked the Bears to lose this game. I'm jumping on with Danny. I think they're going to win this game. I think they go in and they win this game, but I think it's going to be really ugly, and I think it's going to end up being like a 17-13 game. It's going to be a one touchdown in the early fourth quarter, and then the clock just seems to fade away, and the Bears come out with a 4-point victory. I'd like to say it's a more exciting game, but I don't care. If the Bears win, I will gladly take that. So I'm going to pick them to win this game in a very ugly slobber knocker.
I just want to say, for the record, I had the Bears at 3-1 going into the bye, and if it wasn't for one bad quarter in that first game, they would have been 3-1 going into this bye week. So you're right. Saying.
Yeah, you're 100% right, because if they beat Minnesota, you are perfect to this point going into this. So I mean,
and they should have beaten Minnesota.
Yeah. But such is life. So as we get ready to wrap this up, let's go around the horn and talk about what's going on. Danny, what are you working on? What are you analyzing here? It's always draft season. What you got going on?
College football, my friend. College football galore. It's been a hell of a college football season. I've already put out my 10 players to look at the running back position, at defensive end, and at defensive tackle. That list is in flux right now. Players are going up. Players are going down. Depending on how they're performing so far. I'm looking at offensive linemen now, offensive tackles, offensive guards, and I'm also looking at cornerback. I think cornerback is a position that the Bears could be looking at come April. So look for those on Shimon Draft Scout, and I will produce some of my top 10 guys right now going at this point in the season. But again, that is it's always in flux, always moving up and down, and just like Penn State and Texas were 1 and 2 in the rankings. Now they're no longer ranked. So just keep visiting Shimon Draft Scout and look at my top 10 players to kind of get an idea in terms of what to look for, who to look for come April and come the draft.
Real quick, Danny, how different does your quarterback class look now than it did a month ago?
Not much, really, because Arch Manning was not coming out this year. I was pretty adamant in terms of he's not coming out. Then this year is a proving point where he just needs more time, some more seasoning, and I think he was a guy that's, for me, coming into the season, Garrett Nussmeier, the kid from LSU, was my top quarterback, along with Lenore Sellers. Sellers has missed a couple of games with a concussion. Nussmeier has kind of had some bad habits here and there, but in terms of pro ready, Nussmeier, I think obviously his dad, Doug Nussmeier, offensive coordinator with the Saints, so he's got some of that NFL pedigree. I think he's a guy that a lot of people are looking at there as well. So the quarterback class is going to be very well scrutinized and kind of mixed over, but Arch Manning is not coming out, in my opinion, and for me it's Garrett Nussmeier or Lenore Sellers right now as the quarterback kind of heading into this class. I'm missing
Dante Moore jumping up at all for you?
Who?
Dante Moore from Oregon?
Dante Moore is another intriguing kid, another dual threat kid, former UCLA transfer. He's a guy that's really caught a lot of eyes as well. So yeah, and Drew Aller is another one that's kind of dropping. He was a guy that was like him. People were talking about first overall pick. Kate Klubnik, he had a lot of first overall pick kind of hype. I did not see that at all. I think he's more of an athlete than he is an actual natural passer as quarterback. So it's going to be a hot and heavy draft class when these guys all come out. But for me, it's Garrett Nussmeier and Lenore Sellers at the moment.
All right, Aldo, plug away. What do we got going on at the bar room?
Tomorrow night, it is Bare Their Souls. And for those of you who are not familiar with this show, it is the hump day of the week type of show where we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of laughs. We've made some changes to the show since Dan Aguirre left the show because of his work schedule. He's unable to join us, but we still love Danny's a big inspiration for the show. But now we start with 30 minutes of just plain football talk with me and our new co-host on the show, Daniken. So he will share his 5 points about the Chicago Bears that serves things up for the rest of the guys to come in, Johnny Santucci, Zim Zimmerman, and myself to talk Bears football for an hour, and then our special contributing co-host is Fitz, who does food reviews and talks football and talks movies with us. So it's going to be a fun show, a little bit different from some of the other fare that we have here at the bar room. But I guarantee you that if you give it a few minutes, you will either love it or hate it. I guarantee it.
That's the spirit. All right. With that, I just want to say thank you to everyone in the chat room, and thank you for anyone that listened to this, whether it's a live version, the podcast version, the video version, or the audio version. I appreciate each and every one of you, whether it's your first time or your 55th time. I can't believe we've been doing this for 9 years. This is fantastic. We're still humming along, and people are still listening, so we must be doing something right. But with that being said, for Aldo Gondia and Danny Shimon, I'm John Buffone. This has been Buffone 55. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the game, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.